Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining our second Real Talk panel as part of our SMA program. The topic tonight, Blazing Your Trail. And my name is Courtney Chase. I'm with Genentech, and we appreciate all of you taking some time out of your day to join the panel discussion. A little bit about SMA My Way. It's a program that we started really for the community and created by the community. And the goal with that program is to help support everyone impacted with SMA by bringing practical tools, celebrating stories, sharing experiences, and empowering people with connections that can help everyone live their life the way they want to live their life. So again, thank you for joining. And so now I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, who does not need any introduction, Shane Burkall. Whether or not you've seen him on YouTube, you've probably seen him on Instagram, and most recently, Ordinary Joe. We want to thank him for taking some time out of his busy schedule to be our moderator tonight, as well as I want to thank all of the panel participants for taking time out of their day to participate. So I'm going to turn it over to Shane. Thanks, Shane, for joining us.
Thank you so much. And welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending today or tonight's panel. My name is Shane Burkall, and I am so excited to be here with all of you today, hosting this amazing panel where members of the SMA community are coming together to talk about their real life experiences. Today, we will be discussing how we navigate life as adults with SMA. And joining us to do that and to have this discussion are some of my fellow SMA My Way contributors, many of whom you probably already know. But let's introduce them now. And as I introduce them, they'll come on camera so you can see all of their beautiful faces. So first up, we have Brianna. Brianna is a storyteller, a copy editor, and also a social justice advocate. Glad to have you here today, Brianna. Next up, we have Megan, who is a mother of two, an author, speaker, and inclusion advocate. Nice to see you again, Megan. Kevin is a world traveler, an author, a public speaker, as well as a nonprofit founder. Thanks for being here today, Kevin. And last but certainly not least, we have Zarek, a fellow YouTuber, but also a podcaster and currently on a mission to complete his bucket list. Nice to see you again, Zarek. All right, with all that said, thank you everyone for joining us, and let's get started. So to begin, we have a poll for all of you in the audience, and let's begin by providing an answer to the question that you see here. Which of these resonates the most with you? So we have, I am a go-getter and nothing stands in my way. I worry about the impact of my life decisions. I go with the flow and take what comes my way. Or I am deliberate and I make detailed plans. I feel like I identify with a few of these. But go ahead and mark the one that you feel like you most resonate with, or that most resonates with you. In the meantime, I'll serenade you with some Jeopardy music. Da 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 da. All right, let's take a look at our results here. So it seems like almost half of us feel that we go with the flow and take what comes our way. That's actually the one that I feel least, or I resonate with the least. I'm happy to say that regardless of your response to this question, no matter how you navigate your life, I am confident that the perspectives and the stories that you will hear today will be useful for you. All right, navigating life as an adult often means learning a lot about yourself and what you're passionate about. So Megan, Can you tell us how you discovered your passion, either personal or professional, and how that has shaped you?
Yeah, so when I think about my personal path, I had dreams since I was really little of getting married and raising a family, living on my own, and not necessarily having to live with my family and my parents. Not that that's bad, but that's just some personal goals that I had. I was always a pretty determined go-getter. I think I resonated with that one the most. I was ready to find a way, make it happen, while not being scared, of failing or rejection, and really just going after my passions. When it comes to relationships, that's a whole nother ballgame that we've talked about before, and I love that topic. We had dreams of moving out of state and really, creating our own path, but that was a big step, a scary step, honestly. And I had to advocate for what I really needed. It never stops, even to this day as an adult. When I first moved here, I was actually denied health insurance and care that I need to, function in everyday life, but I had to fight for it. And that was a good thing I was able to do that, because I ended up getting the insurance I needed and the care I needed. But that's kind of just the reality is I have to fight for what the needs are for myself and my family. And then I think on a professional level, at a young age, I knew I wanted, in some sense, to be a storyteller or speaker of some sort and share my life with the world, just really in hopes to encourage other people with SMA and to share my life with the non-disabled community. But it wasn't until that I was older that I really saw what that was going to look like. I had to get creative on ways to pursue my passion and make a career out of it. I was really passionate about educating kids, but that wasn't until I had my own children. But yeah, and that's kind of what I'm doing now. Is I'm an author, and I have a brand that I do advocacy for children in the disability community. But it took time to develop that.
Yeah, Megan, I totally hear what you're saying. I always knew that I was in love with storytelling. When I was a little kid, box office, blockbusters, Star Wars, the whole bit. If you follow me on social media, you know I love Star Wars. But even also like the books that my mom introduced me to as a kid, I've always loved reading. I've always loved like getting lost in the story, but I didn't really realize how much I loved actually writing until I started dabbling in fan fiction, and that was kind of when everything clicked for me. But I stayed in school. I got my master's degree in counseling because I thought that as an adult, I needed an adult job. So I got my degree in counseling. But, all throughout school, I found myself returning to the stories that I made up in my head and to the stories that I just loved growing up. And it took me graduating with my master's to realize that, okay, actually writing is what I want to do with my life. And that may not be a professional adult job, but it is what brings me joy and fulfillment.
That's so awesome, Brianna. I was blessed to have parents who let me explore different types of music and art at a very young age, which have given me the power to express myself and has helped me find my voice throughout my life. Most recently, my passion for music and art have allowed me to take part in Spaces, which was a musical collaboration created for everyone with a disability as part of SMA My Way's song program. My brother Zach and I contributed to the song, which was so much fun, and I also got to design the album cover. So music and art really have taken me to so many great places.
Yeah.
Thank you to the three of you for sharing that. Kevin, how about you? We haven't heard from you yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with Zarek about music and art, and it's allowed me so many opportunities to share my story and my passions with people. And Bree was talking about the books that her mom gave her when she was young, and I remember before I could even read, my sister would read Chronicles of Narnia to me, and so actually you can see books behind me. It's um, one of my favorite places to be is inside a book. But I think for me, ultimately, I figured out at a young age that what I love most to do in life is bring people together, and so having experiences with literature and music and art and some other different side jobs and hanging out with friends. What that looks like may take a different shape depending on the season of life or the situation that I'm in, the people that are around me, and the needs that they have, and so yeah, it takes different shapes, and I'm really thankful for the family that I grew up in that gave me kind of an eclectic experience to be able to say, all right, I want to bring people together. How do we do that now? What are the resources we have? And I think SMA My Way is just another way of doing that. So thankful for it.
That's awesome. Yeah, for me, I discovered my passion was making people laugh through telling stories. And it sounds like we have a lot of storytellers and artists on this panel. But I discovered it when I was in 5th grade, and my friend and I had this idea to make a comic book about a bunny rabbit that was a superhero. It sounds like something a 5th grader would think of. But my friend illustrated it. I wrote the story, and then we kind of like made a binding for it with like tape and glue. It probably looked like a hot mess. But we handed this comic book around to our friends on the playground and our parents, and seeing people respond and laugh to something that I had written filled me with a rush of adrenaline that was like unlike anything else. So I love that, and I wanted to do more of it. In early high school and college, many people encouraged me to be sensible about being a writer as a career. And so I began a blog kind of as an outlet for that passion while I was studying journalism so that I could get a real job as an editor or something like that. Or I should say a safer job. But that blog, addressing that passion that I had to make people laugh ended up leading to a book deal, a nonprofit, and the rest is history. So pursuing that passion of making people laugh led to everything else. All right, next slide, please. All right, next question. Trying something new can often be really scary for anyone. So Kevin, can you share a time where you were maybe unsure or about to try something new that may have been scary, but you did it anyway, and tell us what that was like.
Take your pick. So I remember one time I was in Southern California with some friends, and this was a couple of years ago, and we decided to go out to the beach for an afternoon. And so my wheelchair couldn't go on the sand, so we took my backpack, and my friend Tom was carrying me. And after a while of walking along the beach, Tom, who's a very ornery person, said, he said, Kevin, as your friend and the person carrying you right now, I feel that it is my God-given duty to take you into the ocean. And I realized in that moment that all I needed was 3 seconds of courage to say yes. and then he was going to take it from there and do the rest. And so I did. I said yes, and within moments we were out in the waves, crashing up against our chests, and just really out in the water, and it was unlike anything I've ever experienced before. It was really awesome, and we did not find out until later from someone else that was looking on from afar that we had actually been swimming with sharks, and so that was a fun experience to realize later. I don't know how I would have felt in the moment, but it was fun to realize afterwards. It's a good story to tell after the fact.
That is terrifying. I will not go anywhere near water that I cannot see through for like miles. So props to you, and that must have been, a little unsettling to find that out after the fact, or very unsettling. But just a great perspective about kind of having those 3 seconds of, courage to say yes. I love that. Brianna, how about you?
Well, mine is maybe not as exciting as swimming with sharks, but I remember in the early days of the pandemic, so like late 2020, someone that I follow on Instagram posted about a writers group that was focusing on like health and wellness, and it sounded really cool, and I really needed the community, to be surrounded by other writers, but I was nervous to sign up for it. For one, it was a lot of money, and we can't make a lot of money. But also, I didn't really feel like a professional writer. I struggled with imposter syndrome and feeling like the writing that I do isn't like official professional writing. And I was worried that like I wouldn't belong there, that people would feel like I was letting in. And but I did it because again I needed the community, and it has truly been the most rewarding experience. We've been meeting regularly for a year and a half, a year, somewhere around that, and they are so close to my heart, and it is so encouraging to be surrounded by people who have the same passions as me, and to be in community with people that are going through the same things that I am. So that it was definitely worth it, as scary as it was.
That's so awesome, Brianna. Yeah, I would say every big decision that I've ever made was a decision that I was unsure of what the outcome was going to be. From moving my whole family across country, having a baby, starting a business. I know every time before like I go on stage for a public speaking event, I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, that was so worth it. None of those decisions were secure outcomes, but I did it anyways. I did it. Sometimes I did it scared. But at the end, it's rewarding. And I think, if I didn't take those big leaps of faith, then I wouldn't be where I am now. So I'm thankful for that.
That is so true, Megan. And related to public speaking, along the way in my career, I decided that public speaking was something that I wanted to do more of and had to spread a message and advocacy that way. But I didn't know if my mouth and my voice were strong enough to actually give a presentation. So I had these conflicting feelings inside me. I really wanted to do public speaking, but I was so nervous that I wouldn't be able to do it. I, like you said, took a leap of faith, and I went out there and booked my first speaking engagement, went out on stage, and just did it. And there were definitely some, learning experiences, I will call them, in the early days. talks that went badly, jokes that didn't land, things like that. But I also discovered along the way that there was no better feeling in the world than an auditorium full of people laughing at a joke that I had said. And so I kept learning and kept growing. And today, public speaking is one of the most important and biggest parts of my job. So it it was all because, excuse me, I kind of took that leap of faith. Another recent experience was my involvement in the SMA My Way song program that Jarrett mentioned earlier. And for those of you who have not yet heard Spaces, the song that we all made, you're missing out. The music video is on smamyway.com, and you can listen to the song pretty much everywhere that you can stream music. But anyway, my wife Hannah and I were asked to be involved and contribute to this like one of its kind musical collaboration, along with Megan and Jared. And I was nervous because I had like no experience in song creation, and we had a lot kind of going on at the time. Thankfully, we did agree to get involved, and we got on board, and it was an amazing experience to be a part of. So, another example of taking that leap of faith and doing something that you've never done before. Zarek, how about you?
I can't agree more. I was nervous, but also very honored to be part of such a great project with other people in the SMA community. And to answer your question about new experiences, recently I went to Austin to enjoy an awesome concert, but afterwards we went to a zoo. And one of the zookeepers comes up to me and he asked me, "Hey, bud, do you want to play with reptiles?" Now, I'm very skeptical about reptiles, and I was like, no. And he looks at me and he says, "You want to trust me." So I was like, you know what? Let's do it. So next thing I know, he's bringing out a 120-pound ball python and laying it across my chest, right? And I am so scared of snakes. Where I live, those things are scary, okay? So I decide to embrace it, and I feel the muscles and the strength of the snake. And then all of a sudden I realize I want to look this thing in the face, right? So I asked him to pray in front of me, and it gets in my face and it licks my nose, right? But as soon as we locked eyes, this overwhelming peace and serenity came over me. And all the fear that I had doing it went away. And it was one of the best moments I've ever had in my life. And I'm so glad I said yes.
That's really cool. So what I'm hearing from all of you is that trying new things, trying things that might feel scary, very often leads to some of the most amazing and important experiences of our life. I'm also noticing a pattern here about dangerous animals. So maybe that's the theme of this panel. All right, can we go to the next slide, please? All right, so let's continue focusing on finding your voice. It can often be challenging to speak up for what we need. Brianna, have you ever felt that way? And can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I really struggled to advocate for myself in school. I remember in high school, my care, not my caregiver, the person that handled like my IEP and stuff, that was her big concern that I didn't advocate for myself, and it was just so hard as someone with anxiety, and as someone, Shane mentioned earlier, you know, my voice is so weak that a lot of times people can't hear me, they can't understand me. So even the minutia of like sitting down and having this conversation of, okay, this is what I need, how do I get it? That was just terrifying to me. And it still is. You know, at like 26 years old, I'm still struggling to like talk about my needs. But you know, it does get easier. I often feel like the discomfort of talking to people and asking for things, it's not worth it. Like, my needs are important. And even if they are, who's to say that my needs are actually needs, you know, instead of just like things that I want. But at that point, that's when I tell myself that my feelings are lying. You know, my emotions aren't very smart. They don't know what's going on. And ultimately, I'm the only person that knows what it's like to be me, you know? So I am truly the best person who can advocate for me. So that's kind of where I'm at. I still struggle with it, and I'm assuming that it's going to be hard no matter what. But I do take a lot of um, comfort in the fact that it does get easier the more you do it.
Yeah, I would agree with that, that it gets easier the more you do it. And something that really motivates me um, in asking for help is that as I've asked for help, I've seen people respond, and I have friends that rise to the occasion, rise to the call, and so not that everyone that I ever ask says yes. I've had some experiences where people say no or don't know what to say, but fortunately, I've had more experiences of seeing people respond well and actually take it as an invitation into deeper friendship and deeper connection. And so realizing that that's a good thing. And so just running with that, and then also realizing that when I ask for help, when I invite people into my needs, you know, it does create a deeper connection. And so I have a responsibility to also care for them in response.
Yeah, that's super true. Um, I think that that idea of, you know, it being a mutual thing where you're helping the people that help you is really important. You know, for me, I went through a long period of time growing up where asking for help from others made me feel like a burden. And as Brianna said, you know, it was a process to get through that and to realize that I'm not a burden for asking for help. Um, Eventually it just kind of clicked. I mean, I really have my wife to thank for that and helping me to kind of navigate my feelings of being a burden. But eventually I realized that the only way I'm going to be able to thrive is to ask that my needs are properly met. And so, like in my professional life, for instance, going back to speaking engagements, I found that doing multiple speaking engagements in one day often really tires me out, and I'm not able to do the ones at the end of the day as well as the early ones. So I now ask that I not do more than one a day, and that's been really helpful and really important for my career. Megan, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Just those practical things for you, you know. I think in my younger years, I sat back more and I watched my mom be the advocate for me, you know, at doctor's appointments and at school and things. I think I was in more of a learning what advocacy looked like for myself. And she kind of took the reins. But I later realized that I had to be my own advocate. Even, as I transitioned into an adult, I knew more what my needs were than she did. And I would encourage other parents of, children with SMA to let your kids be involved in that and watch and, learn how you're advocating for them, and then kind of passing that on and letting them get to do it eventually. But I just knew that I wasn't going to get anywhere that I wanted to be in life if I didn't actually speak up for what not only my needs were, but what my wants were too, because people didn't know what they were. They didn't know. I mean, even doctors sometimes didn't know what my needs were in a certain area. So I had to do that and speak up. And, it's something that I'm trying to teach my own children, how to speak up for what their needs and wants and desires are too.
I couldn't agree more with all of you guys. I felt the same way growing up. When I was younger, I struggled a lot more than I do now to advocate for myself. But over the years, I've learned how important it is, not only for my quality of life, but for the generations to come after me. It's what gives me the confidence to say something. Helping solve a problem I run into makes it easier for the next person who runs into the same situation.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we move on to our next question, please. So this next topic is about the doubters in our lives. We all have people from time to time who might doubt us or the things that we're doing, and those situations can be difficult to handle. I will kick off this one and talk about a time when we had doubters, or I had doubters, and how I handled that. So for me, it's simple. I try my very best to ignore them or find humor in their doubting of me. I found over the years, being on YouTube, you get exposed to all the doubters in the world. And 99% of the time, the doubters are just uninformed about my abilities. And so for them to then vocalize that opinion that is based on false premises, it really just tickles me. So I love when people express some kind of doubt or criticism that is just like wrong. It reminds me of a saying I love that is to remember that the people who are booing you aren't on the field with you. They're the ones that bought tickets to watch the show. So that helps me when I am facing people that might be doubting me or my ability. Brianna, how do you feel about doubters and how do you handle it?
Well, I mean, there are, of course, random people who would only for my disability and look down on me, but, they're strangers. I don't even know their names. Honestly, I think I am my biggest doubter, It's my own doubt that gets in the way of me doing the things that I want to do. I pretend to be optimistic, but I think deep down I'm actually very pessimistic about my career and my ability to live as an adult in the world as someone with a disability. But therapy has been a huge game changer for me in terms of recognizing and addressing my self-limiting beliefs, and also surrounding myself with people who challenge me. A lot of people will try and temper us and hold us back from doing these things so we don't get our hearts broken. But at the end of the day, heartbroken or heartbreak is inevitable. You can't escape it. And life is too short to be afraid of things that hurt us. and having people who believe in us and are willing to support us as we do these, big, amazing, crazy things. That's so important. And having their stubbornness, it really rubs off on you.
Yeah, I I agree. Brianna, I feel like, there are the doubters, but then keeping my friends and my family who are supporting me close and letting those voices be louder and more constant is really important. And so for me, when it comes to the doubters and the skeptics of what I can do, I I really don't worry about them much because um, they don't know my situation, and uh, they'll catch up eventually. Just like I'll catch up eventually on something that involves them because I'm not there yet. We're all kind of going through life at a different pace, and we're all in different places um, at all times. And so I think uh, yeah, kind of shrugging them off but with grace, not just saying, well, heck with them, but saying, no, that's okay, it's all right. They'll figure it out, and I have a lot of things myself to figure out. But Shane, I love too what you said that you said I try to do that, and so I mean we're all human, and I think that's what I try to do. But of course there are moments. Of weakness, I guess you could say, where I get frustrated or discouraged, and so that's where the other voices come in. That's where the friends and family step in to remind me who I am and who they are, and that they are there with me.
Yeah, that's super good. I was just going to say that too, Kevin, is, being gracious with people, because I don't think people intend to. I think there's two sides. I think there are just haters and doubters, but I think there are people who just don't know, kind of like what Shane was saying. They might be, unaware or ignorant to what you're capable of. And at that point, I sometimes just don't even bother over explaining, everything. And you just kind of I just let my life, its actions be the response to their doubt versus trying to always battle it, I think.
Totally know what you mean about dealing with ignorant people. For me, when I do come across someone who doubts my ability to thrive, my approach is very simple. I block out their negative energy and I believe in myself that I will accomplish whatever I'm trying to do. And when I'm done, I know I gave it my all, and in the end, that's all that counts. That's truthfully the best way that I've found to deal with them.
Thank you. Yeah, I love all of these perspectives. All right, can we move to the next slide, please? So navigating adulthood as a person with SMA can be hard to do alone sometimes. And I know that I've always found so much value in having a support system. And a few of you have already talked about that today. So let's ask our panelists kind of what role does the SMA community specifically play in your life? And what advice would you have for others who might be looking to connect with other adults that have SMA? Kevin, let's begin with you.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as how the SMA community is a part of my life, I have a handful of friends with SMA. My sister, my older sister, also has SMA, which was between the friends and her, it was really cool to be able to grow up with a few people who knew where I was, and they were kind of there too, and we could really understand each other in ways that other people couldn't. And so I'm really thankful for that, both growing up and now as an adult. And I would say too, as far as advice, I'd say as you engage with the SMA community, because now we can do that more thoroughly and more effectively with the internet and with groups like this that starting and everything. I would say go in and find a couple of people that you really connect with for more reasons than just having SMA. You connect on deeper things that you are passionate about, like we're talking about, things that you care about and are important to you. Yeah, so I would say that's really key, to have a deeper relationship in that way.
Yeah, that's really good, Kevin, especially the, not building the relationship only on SMA. I think that's great that we can find other people within the community so that we get each other on those levels, but within the SMA community, there's people that are going through life experiences that I've either already gone through, so I can, share and impart in. And then vice versa, there's things that people have gone through that I haven't yet, and I can glean from them and ask questions and, seek insider advice, or, hey, how did you do this? Or, what advice do you have? And so I love that about the SMA community, because it can be hard navigating through things that are unfamiliar. And so having someone that's like, hey, I've done this, here's, not that it's, going to follow their footsteps necessarily, but someone you can, kind of bounce things off of. I think that's really cool. And then the cool thing with SMA My Way, what they're doing now is just how we've gotten to connect through social media. That is probably the primary way that I connect with people. And I know in the beginning of, when social media was rising, it's kind of, people are like, well, that's not real relationships. Well, I think we've learned how to develop real relationships through social media, which is cool. Yeah, and the website, it's a great way for you to learn more, to read more resources. And, for people that haven't done that, I really recommend it. It's an amazing resource.
Yeah, I love what you said, Megan, about social media and like people saying that relationships on social media are actually relationships, because that's just so not true. I didn't engage with the SMA community until like my mid-20s, and I regret it. I mean, I grew up thinking that identifying with disabled folks would alienate me further, but it's like the opposite. I am so strengthened and encouraged by my ties with the SMA community and also the disabled community at large. One of my best friends has SMA, and we actually met through a random Facebook group that had nothing to do with SMA. As we both introduced ourselves and realized, yeah, we have SMA. And we realized, wait, you have SMA? I have SMA. And it turned out that we have the same type 2. So that was just such a cool moment of serendipity, and I think it goes to show how kind of seamless we can interweave these online relationships into, our real life. It is so helpful to have people listen to what you're going through and be like, hey, yeah, that sucks. I've been there, and that just sucks. And you can't really find that in communities that don't have that same experience. So yeah, I definitely, social media, forums, Instagram, just anything online is amazing.
Yeah, I have had a kind of similar journey with the SMA community. Brianna, I was not really a part of the SMA community until like my early mid 20s. I, as a dumb teenager, thought that I was, unique, and that I wasn't like people that had SMA. I thought I could forge my own path, and I was so wrong about that that I regret it. I wish I'd gotten involved and opened up my eyes earlier. Becoming a part of the SMA community is one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And realizing that I'm not unique was super big. It gave me confidence kind of in my future, and knowing that there are all these people living lives similar to mine, doing amazing things and living fulfilling lives. It was really cool. I've made friends. I think going back to what Kevin said, it's important that these connections are not purely transactional, where you're just there to learn something. And I think making real friendships with people that you connect with is really important as well. Jarrett, how about you?
I relate so much to Brianna and Shane about finding our community later on in life. Through Estimate My Way, this is the first time we as a family have realized and actually felt there are other people out there who go through what we experience. It felt a little lonely for us growing up. Nobody around us, like teachers or counselors, seemed to understand. But with my family and friends as my support system, I've been able to do things I didn't think were possible.
All right, can we go to the next slide, please? For our next question, when we think of well-being, many people often think of the physical impacts of SMA, but we all know that there is so much more to it than that. And it's important that you take care of and prioritize not only your physical health, but mental and emotional health as well. So Megan, how do you kind of take care of your well-being, and why is that important to you?
I actually love this topic because I am a firm believer that I cannot be the best version of myself if I'm not taking care of myself. And that pours into everything else, right? So, I mean, from like you said, it's not just, the physical, but it is, from taking my vitamins daily and eating well, but also like feeding what my soul needs and what my desires are, and talking to counselors, things like that. Doing the things that I need, whether it's reading a book or whatever that looks like. It all affects how my life functions. I can tell when I have not set time aside for what I need. And that pours back into my family, into my friendships, into my job. It's really all connected. And so I try really hard to prioritize what those needs are.
Yeah, I would agree with Megan that there's things we need to do to keep ourselves healthy, not just physically but emotionally too. And so for me, a lot of that is just keeping those friends that I talked about earlier, keeping them around, to speak truth into my life, and be an encouragement, and also just being around them, is good and life giving. And then for me also my faith is a big thing for me. And as Megan mentioned, and I'm sure Bree is also going to mention, a good book, having a good book nearby is it's profoundly important. I had a roommate a few years ago. I asked him, when do I seem the most myself? And he said, when you're in like our kitchen reading a good book. And I was like, all right, so I need to do more of that. So yeah.
Yeah, yes, amen to that. I I love reading, to one thing, and that is one way that I kind of refill my cup and rest. And also just like as a storyteller, engaging with stories that I haven't created. Like books, video games, movies, comic books, just anything that I can kind of soak it in and just enjoy it is so nice. And just, I think more importantly, allowing myself to rest. I have delusions of grandeur. I like to think I have way more energy than I actually do. And then I burn out. I'm always like this close to burning out at any given moment. So I think the older I get, the more important it is for me to realize that I push myself too hard for one thing, and also that my energy and my abilities are finite and I can't do everything, and that's okay. That's not a reflection on who I am as a person. It's just how things are. And so for me, the key to well-being is like recognizing but also honoring my limits and what I can do.
I totally hear you. I have to give praise to my wife. Without her, I wouldn't have well-being probably, or I'd be very bad at it. And so, she's always helping me relax. And when I'm feeling anxious or worried about something, she really brings me back and helps me center. I also find that, putting my mind onto something like work or just some activity. I think I am most anxious when I'm not really doing anything. So um, I take on a variety of projects so that I'm always way too busy, and that's not advice, but it does help me kind of feel busy and not, ruminate on things too much, and that's helpful. Jarrett, what about you?
I couldn't agree more with all of you. Self-care is so important. I've learned over the years that the best way for me to take care of myself is to pay attention to my body, whether it be emotionally, mentally, and or physically. In the past, I made the mistake of pushing myself way too far. To this day, I regret it. It took a really big toll on me physically. So going forward, I've learned I need to listen to my body to give myself a better quality of life.
Thank you for sharing that. We are having such a thorough and amazing conversation here that we're running up on time, and we're going to be respectful of everyone's time. So we're going to skip over our last few questions and get to the Q&A now. But I just want to reiterate how thankful I am for all of our panelists in sharing your experiences and thoughts. It was very eye-opening for me, and I'm sure for everyone in attendance. So I will now hand it back to Courtney to do some Q&A. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane, and thanks everyone. Great discussion, and yes, we're running up on time, so we want to make sure we get to just a couple of questions. So the first question that I wanted to ask, and it really goes out to all of you, how have you dealt with people doubting you as someone with a disability? This is a question from the audience that's on. So Shane, why don't we start with you?
Yes, thank you. So I think Megan said it really well before when she said that she lets her actions kind of be the response for someone that doubts us. I have found that, ignoring people and just taking that criticism or that doubt and using it as motivation to work harder and do even more amazing things is for me the healthiest way to handle that.
Thanks, Shane. Brianna, any additional thoughts to share?
I definitely, what Shane said. And also, I think, going back to what I said earlier, recognizing that we have finite energy and we have a finite amount of time in this world. And I don't want to spend my time and energy worrying about people that A, don't understand me, or B, don't want to take the time to support me. That's what it really comes down to, is that it's not a priority for me to try and change other people's minds. All I can do, all I can focus on is what I can change.
Thanks, Brianna. Zarek, anything in addition to add?
Yes, I totally agree with Brianna. I do the same thing. I do not pay them no mind, because at the end of the day, we do what makes us happy, and it shouldn't matter what anybody else thinks. Their thoughts and opinions don't bother me, or shouldn't bother anybody, because at the end of the day, they're not living the lives that we live. You know, as long as we're happy, and at the end of the day, we love ourselves and love our family, that's all that matters.
All right, thank you. All right, so the next question, and I'll start with Kevin and Megan, because I know we didn't get your perspective on that. So the question that came in is, how have you handled life transitions from college to following your dreams to getting a house? Can you share a little bit more about how you handled those life transitions?
Yeah, for me, a lot of it was, and this may not be how it goes for everyone, but for me, it was kind of a step by step. And so, when I went to college, I went to, it just turned out that I went to a college like half an hour from my parents, and so I got to live on campus, but I was near, they weren't too far away, and then, lived with some friends after college and in the same town, and then eventually moved 9 hours away. So that was the big step. But still, it was like figuring this part out and then figuring this part out, and just kind of making that transition slowly, step by step. And so it's how you eat an elephant. It's one bite at a time. And I feel like that worked for me, because if something didn't work out, if I was, if I asked a friend to help out, and they turned out to not be as helpful as I expected, then I had kind of a safety net, or I had a backup plan through my family and other friends in the area, and where I had grown up. And then when I moved up to Fort Wayne, where I am now, my sister had already been living here for a while, and so she had a good community here that I got to kind of step into. And so maybe that's part of it too, is just taking it step by step, and also you know making making good plans. Don't just take a leap, but examine your situation, and go from there.
All right, thanks, Kevin. And Megan, we are at time, but I just wanted to ask you one of the last questions. So, and you sort of touched on this earlier, but how do you let things that people say bounce off of you? And when did you learn to laugh at those comments and kind of develop that tough skin?
I think I naturally am a little bit like Shane, and I turn things into humor as my defense mechanism, and it's worked. So I think, I don't know, man, I think as things have come up, even being just a kid in general, whether you have disability or not, there's just mean people out there. And so there's things I had to learn to not let bother me, or like, hey, that's not even true is what they're saying, or, maybe they're just unaware of the situation or whatever. And I like to just kind of step back and say, okay, what's the purpose? Like, what are they? Are they just a hurt person? Or, is it really worth me explaining this here? Or is it just something I just have to let go? Like, what is kind of like that, choose your battle, as parents will say about kids, pick your battles. Like, is this worth actually discussing with someone, or is it really just worth letting go? You're, like Brianna said, you're not going to change everyone's mind. And so there's things that you just have to let roll off. And I think it's hard to say like learn to have tough skin, but I think it also matters how much, like if you're putting yourself out a lot on social media and things like that, you might get more. I'm sure Shane gets a heck of a lot more than I do, because he's putting himself out there more. And so that's what you have to be comfortable. What are you comfortable with too? But I think I would just encourage you that you're tough. You can do it. Like if you want to be a writer and it's scary to put your stuff out there, like do it anyways, and you're gonna get haters, but ignore it. It's okay. It's worth the reward of doing what you love. So
Thank you. Very good life advice. All right. So I want to thank everyone. We are over. I want to just turn it back to Shane to close the program.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you
Shane.
so much. Thank you, Hardy. I also just want to, thank Kevin, Brianna, Megan, and Zarek for being here with me today and sharing your experiences. We hope that all of you watching found our discussion helpful and encourage you to blaze your own trail. Since we didn't get to every question, be sure that you check out SMA My Way, as we'll be posting videos from today's discussion, and there is a lot more content on there if you're interested in learning more, or hearing more perspective from our contributors. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.